It's Tuesday night, so you know what that means. We discuss all things men's and women's soccer on where they will end in the MAC. And men's ice hockey faced off against AIC to kick off Parents and Alumni Weekend. And women's hockey defeated the Ivies. Field hockey and rugby closed out their season. We recap all that and more starting now. Welcome to Studio 125. I'm your host, Mike Singer. Alongside me, I have Santina Maioni and Kaylin Terry. How you guys feeling?
Well, Kaylin, I'm super excited. I'm ready to discuss some women's and men's ice hockey as well as soccer. A lot of great topics to get into.
Yeah, I'm super excited too. And you know what, Santino? We're friends, but we're not tonight, so good luck.
Awesome. Love the energy from you both. Let's get right into it. This past weekend, the Bobcats faced off against Manhattan on a very rainy Saturday. The Bobcats won 4-1. Santino, in your opinion, do you think the Bobcats should have won 4-1 after seeing some easy goals hit the back of the net due to the weather conditions?
When you say weather conditions, you're not kidding. The weather conditions were not great. The rain was pouring. I was at the game shadowing our soccer beat reporter Ben Kane for QBSN. And again, just to answer the question, yes, I 100% believe the Bobcats deserve to win this game. Brog Austin had 2 huge goals as well as an assist. Senior Paulo Suarez, on senior day no less, had 2 huge assists. He played a great game, was very, very aggressive. I loved what I was seeing from him when I was at the game. And coming off a tough loss to Fairfield right before this game, I am 100% adamant that they deserve to win this game. They played hard, they did what they had to do and got a win and put themselves in position to get into the MAC tournament.
Yeah, you know what, Santino, I entirely agree with you. I also think that they deserve to win. Even though you're right, the weather conditions were, not so great, very, very rainy, the field's wet. I don't think that the rain had that much effect on this game. I mean, I know playing on turf and grass being wet are 2 different things. It depends on, what the teams are used to playing on, and the ball's wet, you're slipping and sliding everywhere. It's just really hard to tell, but I don't think it was an advantage for either side, really. I think that Quinnipiac's been a solid team so far, going 8-7 before taking on Manhattan. Manhattan has a 5-7-2 record this year, and Quinnipiac beat Manhattan as well. So I really think they deserve to win.
Like you said, both teams were dealing with the conditions. Not like one had a huge advantage over the other. So, yeah, I think we agree here to start it off.
With one more regular season game in the future for the Bobcats, Kaylin, where do you think the Bobcats will finish in the MAC?
I struggled with this question a little bit. Last year, Quinnipiac finished 7-2 overall. They made it all the way to the final round of the championships, lost in the championships to Monmouth during the COVID season. They beat Monmouth this year, which is a really good sign for the Bobcats. This year, they've also gone 4-5 in the conference. They've struggled against MAC opponents, so that looks a little bit iffy for the Bobcats heading into the MAC championships. I possibly think that they might make it first round, but I don't think that they're going to make it much farther than that in the tournament.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Kaylin, about the fact that they have struggled against MAC opponents. Their MAC record has not been great as compared to last year when they did make the championship. I do think they're going to win this game against St. Peter's on Wednesday. It's obviously a huge game. And I think, obviously, right now they're standing at 8th in the standings. I believe they could get as high as possibly 5th or 6th in the standings. And, if that said, if they get that high, I do believe they can, obviously, they'll get in the first round. I think they can win a game in the first round and kind of carry this momentum after getting these 3 wins in a row. They can carry that to even possibly make the championship again. I do believe that.
Santino, where will the Bobcats stand in the end after beating Marist this past weekend and having their best regular season record in the team's Division I era?
Yeah, that's a crazy stat, the fact that the women's soccer team had their best regular season record in the Division I era. It was a huge season for them and their star player, Rebecca Cook. I think, after beating Marist in the quarterfinals, now them going into the semifinals, and I believe they are playing Siena. So they're going to either play Monmouth or Fairfield in the championship if they beat Siena, and I believe they will beat Siena in their next game. And I think regardless of whether it's Monmouth or Fairfield, just as I was saying, I believe the men's team could make the championship. I think Quinnipiac for the women's soccer will not only make the championship, but they will beat either Monmouth or Fairfield going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close call. Last year they went 5-2-1, moved to round 2 of the championships, losing to Monmouth. This year they look a lot better. They're 7-3 in conference play. They only have lost to Monmouth, Siena, and Iona. They just beat Marist in round 1 of the MAC championship. They are going to play Siena on Thursday. Again, they lost to Siena so far this year. They lost 1-0. However, they did lead in shots, which is a really good sign for them. They're putting shots on net, which is good. They need that. But definitely their biggest issue right now is their fouls. They take too many. They took 12 against Siena in this game. So it's really hard to tell. It's a close call. I'm not really sure.
I see what you're saying with the fouls. My thing also is, in order to beat Siena, their star player, Rebecca Cook, is obviously going to have an enormous game. She's going to have to play extremely well to not just beat Siena, but beat a Monmouth team, like you mentioned, that they lost to last year in the semifinals. So I'm expecting a big game from Rebecca Cook, and I'm expecting the Bobcats to win this game and the championship game.
Kaylin, Rebecca Cook has been cooking it up on the field, as she has been a defender and striker. Where do you think she shines on the field?
Mike, that was a really great pun you just had there. But like Santino just pointed out, she has been incredible for the Bobcats this year. She's been definitely putting a lot of the balls on the net, but I think that she will be better suited as striker. She's only played a defender as right back twice in the last 2 games, so we haven't seen enough action with her doing that, but we have seen enough action as a striker. She's scored 12 goals this year with 26 points. She's also had 2 hat tricks, both against Maine and St. Peter's. So I think that she's better suited as striker, and I think that they'll keep it that way heading into this game against Siena.
See, Kaylin, it's a debate show. I want to disagree with you, but I absolutely cannot at all. Like this question, when I read it, I'm sitting here looking at the stats when I was doing my research, thinking, how are we going to disagree on this? Rebecca Cook obviously had 12 goals, and I want to throw out another interesting stat. The amount of impact that she's had on this team, she has not played less than 60 minutes in 1 game this season, including the playoff game, including the MAC tournament game against Marist. She has been an integral part as to why this team is so good. And I think obviously she's been better as a striker. All 12 of her goals have been scored as a striker. And like you said, it's like pretty much impossible to judge how good she's been at right back on defense because she's played 2 games there. How can you judge her on 2 games of right back when she's played the majority of the rest of her games at striker? It's impossible to say that she's been better as a defender than as a striker, and I 100% agree with you. Agreed.
I think that their best bet going into this game against Siena,
100%.
Again, only losing 1-0 in the last game, they held for McNeil scored just in the first 5 minutes, and Quinnipiac was able to hold them for the entire rest of the game to 1-0. I think if they have Rebecca Cook in as striker, they'll be able to win.
I think it's almost like a detriment to your team if you try to play her at defender because, again, the 2 games that they've played, they have won the games, but I feel like they would have won even by more possibly because she might have had a chance to score a goal. So, in my opinion, like you said, again, I agree with you. They should start her at striker in this game, and if they win, they need to start her at striker in the championship.
It's time to take our first break of the night, but don't go anywhere as we discuss all things men's and women's ice hockey, field hockey, and more, and we will be right back.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. What? My. Oh.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text to emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Welcome back. Let's stick with fall sports for a few more minutes, as rugby and field hockey have finished their 2021 season. The field hockey team closed their season with a win versus Sacred Heart. Santino, what went right and what went wrong for these Bobcats this season?
So I'll start off by saying, unfortunately, it was a rough season for the Bobcats. They finished 3-12 overall with a 1-6 record in Big East play. The Big East was very tough this year, and they obviously did not play great in terms of their record. One of the bright spots for the season, though, however, was Amelia Mazzarelli. She finished the season with 10 goals, and I'll actually pull a little fun stat that Gage Kilborn gave yesterday on Sports Pause. She is the first Quinnipiac player to score 10 goals in the last decade. And you know, that's obviously a huge bright spot. She's only a first year. She's going to be here for, you know, cross your fingers. She's not going to transfer or anything, but she's expected to be here for the next 3 seasons. She's only going to get better. She's so young, has so much upside. She's great right now. I think that has to be one of the, you know, brightest sides or the brightest aspects of this team this year. But overall, as a team, the team did not play great this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough, you know, only winning 3 of your games. But, as you said, the Big East is a very hard division to be in. And honestly, I think that is their bright spot, winning those 3 games. They're still finding their grounds within this new division, this new conference. They haven't played for that long in the Big East. They started out in the MAC and switched. They are still finding their ground, and it's definitely a better outcome than we've had in previous years. They beat Yale and Villanova. They usually lose to both of them. Both wins were in overtime, so, you know, it's a little iffy there, but it's huge for them to have beaten them. It's a great motivation for this team. They haven't beat either of them in the last 4 years. They also beat Sacred Heart 3-0 in their final game of the season. The only thing that they need to work on is their corner shots. They went 1-7 against Sacred Heart on Sunday, and so they really got to work on that. They've had 72 for this whole season, and it's just been their biggest issue so far.
Their corner shots haven't been great. The other aspect of it is that their team had a total of 18 goals this year, and like I said, Mazzarelli accounted for 10 of them. The rest of the team does have to try and step up. Only having 8 goals as a team as a whole is not great when you need other production besides Mazzarelli. Mazzarelli can't carry your team.
The rugby team just ended their 2021 season 3-4. Kaylin, what went right and wrong for the Bobcats this season? And do you have any expectations for next season?
Well, so rugby went 3-4 and 2-4 in conference play this year. So it obviously wasn't an amazing season for them, but it wasn't a bad season. They were able to put up points in pretty much every game, so that's pretty huge for them. They did have a 101-7 blowout game against Northeastern, which is huge for the team.
Definitely.
And the only thing that they really need to work on is winning at home.
Yeah.
They just have not been able to win at home really at all this entire season. I really expect them to be able to kind of work on that next year. Having the home field advantage is huge for any team, and to not be able to win there, that's an issue.
You literally said everything that I have in my notes and that I was going to talk about. Like you said, the 0-2 home record is terrible. You can't give away games that you're playing at home. You're having a home game for a reason. You have the home crowd with you. You're on your own field. It's a comfort feeling, and they couldn't capitalize on those. Like you said, though, I agree with you. I will say the 101-7 win was unbelievable. To be able to put that many points up, you can't look at this team and go, oh, you know, they don't know how to play, they can't score. They obviously can score when you drop 100 points in a game. I think they need to shore up, you know, the losses at home and just maybe, you know, obviously just play better as a team together. Overall, I feel like there's a bright spot, you know, going into next year. I don't think we should be overly concerned about this team by any means.
big congrats to the rugby and field hockey. Let's kick it from the field to the ice now. Last season, the Bobcats defeated AIC 8-3. This past weekend, the Bobcats faced off against AIC again, as it was Parents and Alumni Weekend. The Bobcats went into overtime, but were able to secure the dub. Santino, why do you think the Bobcats went into overtime? Did AIC play up to Quinnipiac, or did Quinnipiac play down to AIC?
So I don't necessarily think it was that Quinnipiac played down to AIC. While I will say they were atrocious on power plays in both games, having, I believe, a total of 6 opportunities with 9 shots on goal, didn't convert a single one, didn't score on the power play at all. That is inexcusable. You have to be able to convert on power plays, especially against an AIC team that this year, coming into these 2 games, wasn't even ranked. You're not ranked, and you're at home, and you tie one of the games and then barely squeak out of one in overtime in the next game. So overall, one of the issues I think was the lack of converting on their power plays. And I'm going to touch on a point that I made when I was on the show as an analyst with Dylan. And I had said there was a question asking should Peretz or should St. Cyr be the one that starts in goal. They started with Peretz in goal in the game that they tied in overtime. But then at the end of the first period, about 1 minute left, switched to St. Cyr, and they end up tying in that game. I think that Peretz is undoubtedly the starter, and you can look at even the North Dakota games where when they started Peretz, we won 5-2. You start St. Cyr on Saturday, that Saturday after the first North Dakota matchup, and we lose 3-1. So I think this weekend and in this game specifically, combination of the lack of converting on power plays and the fact that Peretz did not play the entire game.
It's funny you say that about Peretz because I also said at the beginning, before the season even started, in the QBSN roundtables we had, if you haven't seen them, check them out. I also said that Peretz should be in net to start. That was before St. Cyr came here and we could see what he could do, but I still kind of stand by that as well. I think that Peretz should be in the net at least more often than who he is.
Definitely.
I'll quote Ryan Pecknold for this question of what happened in this game. They're gripping their sticks too tight. Ryan Pecknold said that in their press conference on Saturday when they played. And I agree. They're playing way too strategic for the game. In every play, they're thinking way too much about the shots instead of just taking them. They're way too overanalyzing everything that they're doing, and I think that is one of their biggest issues. ARC also was very aggressive on defense this game, or these 2 games. You could see it. They were just stopping puck after puck that Quinnipiac was trying to put on the net. It was just utterly impossible for Quinnipiac to score this weekend. And, so far Quinnipiac has only played non-ranked teams. So I think that they just really got to work on being a little bit looser on the ice, not worrying so much where they're placing the puck and just taking more shots on net.
I will say really quickly, credit to AIC, though. They did play a very, very tough game, and they played the Bobcats hard, especially for a Bobcat team that's ranked in the top 10. Played 2 very, very good games against them.
This past weekend, the Bobcats displayed a lack of power in their power play. Kaylin, what was the reason for this?
Their power plays have always been an issue. It's just every year after year they struggle. They can't capitalize on any of their power play opportunities. They went 0-5 in game 2, as Santino kind of touched on earlier. It's something they have to work on. You can't win a game having 5 power plays and not score on them. It just doesn't happen. They have to stop turning the puck over. Saw that a lot against AIC, consistently turning the puck over, and they just kind of need to figure out a setup that's going to work. They haven't found it yet. They are trying the strategic plays. It's not working. They got to figure out some type of setup, whether it's a 3 setup or what, but it's something that they really got to work on.
It's on the full screen right now. You see it. Quinnipiac is 3-33 on power plays this year with a .091 conversion percentage. That just it won't get it done. You can't be wasting or squandering these opportunities that you get in the power play when you're supposed to be having the advantage. It's why it's called a power play. You have one more player on the ice than the other team does. You need to convert on these, and that was part of the reason, along with, I think, Peretz playing, the reason they beat North Dakota in their first matchup. They converted on a majority of their power plays, and the majority of their goals came from power plays. That was really the only game we've seen this year where they've actually been able to convert on them. And I think part of the problem this weekend was, like you said, AIC was extremely tough on defense. They played really, really well against Quinnipiac. But I think the Bobcats, they have to be more aggressive. Just get more shots on goal. Like Kayla mentioned earlier, don't be so timid. Just be loose with it. Take your shots when you get them. If it goes in the net, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But you need to take more shots on goal, and you need to be more aggressive, because if you're not, you're just going to keep having these issues, and it's going to come back to bite you when you get into tighter games, and especially into the tournament later on.
I agree. Quinnipiac needs some more shots on goal. The Bobcats are currently ranked 8th in the USCHO, but are currently 8-0-2, undefeated. Kaylin, do you think the Bobcats are fairly ranked?
Now, Santino, we have pretty much agreed on everything tonight, but I know that we're not agreeing on this. I said yes. I think they're fairly ranked at 8-0-2 and ranked as they should be in the USCHO poll. Yes, they're undefeated, and that's only because they've been playing non-ranked teams so far. The records don't tell you everything about a team. Yes, they have gone undefeated, but that doesn't tell you much. They tied twice against number 9 Providence. If you're not winning against the number 9 team, I don't think you deserve to be moved up in the ranks. I think that where they are is exactly where they should be. Again, we'll see. They're going to take on Princeton in a few days, or in a few weeks. So I guess we'll kind of see from there how they play, since Princeton is ahead of them so far in the ranks. But I think that they should stay where they are.
So, like you said, Princeton is ranked ahead of them. I think, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. Princeton's played only 2 games this year. There's no way, at least in my head, no one in their right mind can place a team that has played 2 games only. The Bobcats have played 10 games. Yes, they tied twice against Providence, but they've won 8 games. You're going to tell me that a team that has 2 wins should be ranked higher than a team that has played 10 games and has at least proven to you they can beat, subpar competition and at least hang in there with teams that are on their level, with Providence at the time. So I think, for starters, that one is ridiculous. I don't think Princeton should be ranked higher than them at all. And then the one that I could see why people would say Minnesota should be higher, but in my opinion, I think the Bobcats should also be ranked higher than Minnesota. Minnesota's 7-3 right now. The Bobcats, again, they're 8-0-2. Providence at that time was ranked 9th in the country. So if Providence is ranked 9th and the Bobcats tie them twice, you haven't lost any games yet. I think even they should still be ranked higher than Minnesota as well. Minnesota has 3 losses. The Bobcats have none, and they've played the same amount of games. So as of right now, are the Bobcats better than Minnesota necessarily? Maybe not. But as of right now, I think the Bobcats should be ranked at least higher than both of those teams.
I agree with you a little bit, but again, the records, they don't tell you everything. Just because you've won 8 games, they're playing against non-ranked teams right now, so it's really hard to tell. And with Princeton in only 2 games, they won both games. So I think that they do deserve when Quinnipiac has tied twice against Princeton.
It might be chilly outside, but it's definitely heated up in here. Now it's time to take our final break of the night, but don't go anywhere as we discuss the QBSN Game of the Week. And of course, Final Roars. We'll be right back.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I know what you're thinking. I need a job.
I need a new career.
Well, I've been there.
I've been there.
I've been there. I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
After high school, I didn't have a plan.
I just wanted to start working.
I got laid off twice, but you gotta keep going.
You just need the right skills. Find an apprenticeship.
I found a 2-year IT program.
I found a medical course online.
I'm now a consultant in the tech space.
You have more options than you think. You can do this.
You will find something.
You will find something new.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
Come on, Jules, spot me on this last one. There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at our QBSN Game of the Week, which is women's soccer versus Marist. The QBSN Game of the Week goes to the women's soccer team versus the Marist Red Foxes. The Bobcats competed and won the quarterfinal game this past Sunday. Senior Gretchen Kron netted the one goal of the game in the 67th minute of the game. Sofia Lospinoso made 4 saves and had her 4th shutout of the season. Selena Salas tallied her 13th assist and leads the team with 29 points. The Bobcats outshot Marist 19-7 and totaled 12 corner kicks compared to the Marist, who had 3 corner kicks. The Bobcats will advance to the semifinals and are set to play on Thursday, November 4th. Now it's time for our final roars. Sansino, take it away.
I wanted to take my final roar in a little bit of a different direction. Instead of focusing on a team as a whole, I want to focus on a specific player, specifically Amelia Mazzarelli on the field hockey team. She is a first-year forward who is the first Quinnipiac player in a decade to score 10-plus goals in one season. She's only a freshman, and she's already putting up these kinds of numbers. Think about that. That's insane. Mazzarelli was the lone bright spot on what was a disappointing season for the women's field hockey team. She will be going into her second season, and I think she has a huge chance to be even better than this year. She is undoubtedly going to improve, and if she stays healthy and continues to develop, I think she can be one of the best field hockey players ever in Quinnipiac history.
For my final roar, I want to take a look at the men's ice hockey team. They went up against AIC this weekend, splitting the series with a tie and a win, dropping them in the USCHO poll. Coming into the season, Quinnipiac ranked number 5 in the polls, but dropped down to number 6 after barely beating the unranked AIC team. The Bobcats have to start capitalizing on their power play opportunities if they want to go far this season. 2 of the Bobcats' most underrated players this season are Zach Metza and Jaden Lee. Metza had the game-winning overtime goal in the first 50 seconds and has put up points this season so far. And we can't sleep on Jaden Lee. While the junior hasn't put up many goals this season, he has been a breakout player putting pucks on net. He did score 1 goal in the win against North Dakota, but has put up 21 shots as he just has to learn how to finish through on them. Both are very well-rounded players to be able to play defensively while also being offensive on the offensive grind and putting pucks on net.
Like Kaylin, I also want to just take a moment to look at the men's ice hockey game, but this time against Yale in New Haven. Quinnipiac currently holds a record of 5-1-2, while Yale holds a record of 0-1. With Ivy Leagues putting a pause in their season last year, in my opinion, I think this game will be in the Quinnipiac Bobcats' favor. Quinnipiac has played 7 more games than Yale, despite Friday's game being the home opener for Yale. Quinnipiac has more experience in games played this season. I think this will translate into a win for Quinnipiac because the experience is on their side, and they are currently more conditioned due to being 8 games deep into their season versus the 1 game for Yale. In the end, the Bobcats should be able to weather the storm and come out with a victory. That's all the time we have for tonight, folks. To stay up to date on all things Quinnipiac sports, be sure to check out our website at q30tv.com. Also, follow us on Twitter at Q30Sports. From the producers, everyone behind the scenes, our analysts Santino and Kaylin, I'm your host, Mike Singer. We thank you for tuning in, and we wish you a wonderful rest of your Tuesday night. And we will see you next week on Bobcat Breakdown. Good night, folks.